Good afternoon, everyone. Today let's talk about racism. I regard racism to be a social problem that prevents people from experiencing life as God, according to Romans 12:10, means it to be experienced. God values our love for one another, and if we're not able to be redemptive communicators and express God's love by communicating with those of other races, we are not pleasant and satisfying God. Be devoted to one another in love. Honor one another above yourselves. Romans 12:10. Martin Luther King once stated, "I have a dream that my 4 little children will one day live in a nation where they will not be judged by the color of their skin, but by the content of their character." To this day, we have somewhat accomplished his goal, but there is still racism that exists all over. Racism affects everyone. It may affect people differently, but nonetheless it affects all. Hitler hated anyone that did not have blonde hair and blue eyes, and many African American people, due to the racism shown in previous years, despise Caucasian people. Racism will affect you no matter the color of your skin. Someone will always have something to say about it. I am an African American woman with a biracial family. My mother is Caucasian, my father is African American. All my life I've been picked on or beat up for either being white or black. When I went to a majority African American school, I got beat up because they said I was white, and at a primarily Caucasian school, I was treated like a disease to most because I was not as pretty as the white girls. I've dealt with many racial slurs and have had to ask God many times for help to deal with people that would help me. I'll now prove the notion that racism still exists is an ever-going problem by presenting racism from authorities and the criminal justice system, racism against white Americans, and racism and oppression. Racism from authorities in the criminal justice system. White teenagers are not being pulled over in numbers anywhere near those of black and Latino youth. The majority of individuals who are subjected to the NYPD stop and frisk procedures are black and Latino people, especially males. If in fact white people don't complain, it's because with regard to stop and frisk, white people have little to complain about. The NYPD contends that stop and frisk is justified and important to getting illegal guns off the street. But each year, less than 1% of stops produces of guns. In 2003, one gun was found for every 266 people stopped. In 2011, even though hundreds of thousands more people were stopped, those numbers only produced one gun for every 2,982 additional people that were stopped. The Stop and Frisk program has targeted many blacks and Latinos and has shown blatant effects of racism. This is not a value of love that God expects from us, and it's certainly something that does not look justified for the NYPD.
Days and weeks, in recent days and weeks, several police officers themselves have blown the whistle on the program, saying that the department is forcing them to meet quotas to provoke innocent civilians. Now, up until this point, there have been a lot of allegations and little evidence of wrongdoing. Until now, 2 recordings have made their way into the spotlight, each telling a different narrative about the program. The first is an audio from an NYPD officer where his superior told him who to target. He says, quote, "I have no problem telling you this, male blacks, and I told you this." Two tapes that leave 2 very big holes in the credibility.
Racism against white Americans. According to a study conducted by Tufts University School of Arts and Sciences and Harvard Business School, some white Americans believe that they are victims of reverse racism. The study confirms that African Americans and white Americans believe that racism against African Americans hasn't decreased over the last 60 years, but white people in the study group believe that they are racially targeted more than black people. Racism and oppression. Oppression is what happens when people are pushed down by societies. Contrary to popular belief, integration wasn't universally accepted in the North, and racism was not just a Southern issue. When Martin Luther King Jr. managed to march through a number of Southern towns during the Civil Rights Movement, a city he chose not to march through for fear of violence was Cicero, Illinois. When activists marched through the Chicago suburb without King to address housing segregation and related problems, they were met by angry white mobs and bricks. Fast forward to 1975 Boston, when a judge ordered city schools to integrate in 1974 by busing black and white school children into each other's neighborhoods. White mobs pelted the buses with rocks. In conclusion of the topic of racism, I have proved to you the notion that racism still exists. and is an ever-growing problem in our society on all ends of the spectrum. We as Americans and possibly followers of the Lord can make a change in the world by stopping racism in the criminal justice system. We can stop reverse racism against whites and other races due to being angry over the past. God says to forgive and forget. As long as God forgives you, you should be able to forgive others of their sins. We also need to work on preventing oppression. Oppression stops us from being able to do what God has called us to do. As Martin Luther King Jr. stated, let us all hope that the dark clouds of racial prejudice will soon pass away, and in not too distant tomorrow, the radiant stars of love and brotherhood will shine over our great nation with their scintillating beauty.